You know, what is it that separates a really great service experience, one that makes you feel, seen and valued, from one that's just, well, completely infuriating? We've all been there, right? On both sides of that counter. Today, we're going to break down that exact journey from total service disaster to world-class service leader. Let's figure out what it actually takes to get to the top. Oh man, we just have to start here. Because this Dilbert cartoon, it just nails that feeling of a totally broken service culture. You've got the vague mission statements, the focus on metrics that don't really mean anything. It's a pain we can all recognize. And honestly, this is the starting line for way too many organizations out there. So here's the plan. Think of what we're doing today as a kind of diagnostic tool. We're going to walk through a framework that's going to help you pinpoint exactly where your own company, or hey, any company you deal with, really stands on the service spectrum. Because you can't get where you're going if you don't know where you are, right? And the framework itself is built around this really simple, but honestly super powerful idea. A ladder. A ladder with 4 rungs. Every single organization is on one of these 4 levels of service. And the whole game, the real challenge, is to just keep climbing. And here are the rungs. You start at the bottom with the service loser, then you've got the service non-entity, climbing up to the service professional, and then at the very top, the service leader. We're going to unpack what each of these really means, starting, you guessed it, from the very bottom. Hold on, before we start that climb, we have to get this one crucial point. World-class service isn't just about friendly employees or having a slick website. It's about being excellent across the entire organization. Your marketing, your operations, your HR team, they all have to be on the same page and playing at an incredibly high level. True leadership here isn't a department, it's the entire culture. All right, let's take a little trip down to the bottom of the ladder. This is where mediocrity and, let's be honest, sometimes just outright failure lives. We're talking about the service loser and the service non-entity. A service loser is, well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a company that is just failing across the board. The quality of service is a total roll of the dice. It's that company that gives you a 6-hour service window and still manages to not show up. The culture is totally reactive, and the only thing anyone seems to care about is cutting costs. Everybody knows it's a mess, from the customers all the way up to management. Now, the jump from being a loser to a non-entity, it's not a huge leap, but it's an important one. A non-entity isn't actively awful, they're just kind of there. Look at the difference here in service quality. A loser is just plain unsatisfactory. A non-entity, though, at least meets some expectations. And their workforce, it's adequate, but totally uninspired. And yeah, they'll adopt new tech, but only after everyone else has, and only if it'll save them a buck. And this quote right here, this basically sums up the entire philosophy of a service non-entity. This is their unofficial motto. They are not trying to innovate. They're not trying to delight anyone. They are just trying to keep the whole machine running without any major fires. Good enough is, well, good enough for them. Okay, enough with the doom and gloom down at the bottom. Let's start climbing to the top of the ladder, into the world of the service professional and the service leader. This is where organizations get really serious about service and start to stand out from the crowd. A service professional. This is a company that has its act together. They know exactly who their customers are, they deliver on their promises consistently, and they're actually investing in making things better, whether that's training their people or grabbing new tech to get a leg up on the competition. They've made the switch from being reactive to being proactive. So how does a pretty good professional company become a truly great leader? Just look at the differences here. A professional uses research to understand the market. A leader uses innovation to create the market. A professional's operations are driven by customer satisfaction. A leader's operations are famous for their excellence. But the biggest, most important shift, it happens with their people. This right here, this is the single biggest mindset shift of them all. For a professional, HR is about training people, making them better. But for a leader, the quality of their people is the strategic advantage. That's the difference between training someone to follow a script versus empowering them to actually solve a customer's problem on the spot. Why? Because the company knows that employee is their absolute best asset. So when you finally reach the top, this is what it looks like. Your company's name just becomes shorthand for great service. You're not just meeting expectations anymore, you are setting them so high that your competitors literally can't keep up. And your employees? They're not just doing a job. They are empowered, loyal ambassadors for the brand. Okay, so all of this sounds really great, but does it actually pay off? Is there a real, tangible financial benefit to all this hard work? The answer is a huge, resounding yes, and it shows up right on the bottom line. Let's be absolutely crystal clear about this. This isn't just some feel-good initiative. The data shows a direct, powerful, and undeniable connection between making your customers happy and making money. It's not a trade-off. One directly feeds the other. And hey, if you want a hard number to back that up, here it is. Research from the University of Michigan found that for every single 1% increase in customer satisfaction, companies saw, on average, a 2.4% jump in their return on investment. That's an incredible, direct financial reward just for treating people well. And the benefits don't even stop there. The research confirms it time and again. Better service leads to higher stock returns, more predictable and stable cash flows, and at the end of the day, more shareholder value. It's a complete financial win, across the board. So, we've walked through the entire framework. We know what separates the losers from the leaders. But, as this great quote points out, the real challenge isn't about understanding the map, it's about actually taking the journey. And that brings us to the final, and honestly the most crucial question for you. Looking at this ladder, where do you honestly think your organization is today? And, more importantly, what's the very next step you can take to start climbing towards that next rung? Because that's where the journey really begins.